Welcome, mental health warriors. You are listening to Crafting Mental Health. Welcome, mental health warriors. Friends, family, anybody who's new to the podcast, welcome. And I hope you guys had a great week and great weekend. And, I know that the weather here in North Carolina is really getting nice and warm. And I know in some parts of the country, in the world, like in South Africa, where my family is from, they are heading into the winter time. So, they are experiencing some colder days. So wherever you are, I hope you had a wonderful, sunny day and you were able to get out and experience some sunshine on your skin. Because that's always good for mental health. And so just a couple of things, like I've said in previous episodes, you can listen to this podcast on several different platforms. I am currently actually having issues with posting this podcast or, getting onto my Spotify account for some strange reason. But I will hopefully figure that out. Otherwise, I will post this link to another platform where you guys can listen. So that will, I'll make sure you guys get the podcast. I won't forget about you. And then another thing, if you guys want to join my Facebook group, it is Crafting Mental Health Podcast. And you can just join that group on Facebook. You can email me at craftingmentalhealthpodcast@gmail.com. Or you can call me, text me. I'm here if you guys want to talk. We can go and grab a coffee, whatever. Like I say, if you need to talk to somebody, reach out. All right. So today's topic is forgiveness and mental health. So a lot of you might be asking, well, what does forgiveness have to do with mental health? It's not a disorder, or it's, what does that have to do? And, there's actually been some research done that they've followed a group of like 300 people from the age of 16 to I think 79, and they followed them for 5 weeks and in different stages of their forgiveness part. And what they have found is everybody who has started the forgiveness process of forgiving someone that hurt them, all of them has lower stress levels. Their anxiety has improved. Their depression has improved. Their blood pressure has improved. So you have physical and mental health benefits by forgiving someone. Okay. Now, there's a misconception that forgiving someone that hurt you gets them off the hook. That's not true. That just because someone hurt you and you forgive them doesn't take away what they did. Doesn't take away that they might still need to be held responsible. Like if you were sexually assaulted and the person who did that to you was arrested, and they still need to go to trial and all that stuff, you can forgive that person even before all of that is said and done. Yes, that person is still going to go to jail or still going to get, whatever is going to happen with them. But just because you forgive them doesn't make what they did okay. So there's a difference. Forgiveness is for yourself. Because if you don't forgive someone, it's almost like you drinking the poison and expecting someone else to die. So forgiveness is just purely for yourself. You don't even have to reconcile with someone if you forgive them. Like, let's say you had a falling out with a family member, or a better example would be you go through a divorce, and your ex may have had an affair or whatever. You can forgive all of that. It doesn't make what they did okay. It doesn't erase it, but you can still forgive them and move on with your life. You don't have to hold that grudge, hold that grudge over them, because it just takes so much energy out of you to forgive them, or to not forgive them. So by forgiving them, it's like setting setting your own heart free. So, and one of the things that I read is that forgiveness is an active process which you make a conscious decision to let go of the negative feelings. So, like I said, it doesn't mean that what that person did just goes away. That's not what it means. It just means that you are setting them free from holding them accountable. They have to deal with their own guilt and whatever it is that they got to deal with. But for you, you can move on. Okay. And so another thing that I also read is that true forgiveness is really like another step further than just saying, okay, I forgive someone. True forgiveness is actually coming from a part of, you know what? I understand why the person did what they did. It doesn't make it right, but I understand. Like, for instance, if a guy hurts you, like in a sexual assault, he may have had something happen to him in his childhood that's causing him to do these horrible things. It doesn't mean that you forgiving him makes it okay, but you understanding that, he's got stuff that he's got dealing with. He's got a hurt that he's dealing with. So coming from that sense of having empathy and compassion and understanding towards the person that hurt you, that element of forgiveness is extremely powerful and positive for your own mental health. In an article that I found on Johns Hopkins Medicine, the website, there's an article that I found that talks about steps on making forgiveness a part of your life. And I think that's a good thing or a good habit, if you will, to get into, because people are going to hurt you throughout your life. There's no doubt about it. We live in a world full of sin, and people are going to hurt you. And sometimes they don't mean to. Sometimes they do mean to. But at the end of the day, you're going to have to forgive them. And I almost want to say that the sooner you forgive them, the better for you. Okay? And so the first step is to reflect and remember. So you're going to go through the events themselves, and you're going to go look at how you reacted during the event. How did it make you feel? How did the anger and the hurt after the event affected you in your life? Holding on to some unforgiveness sometimes can make your PTSD worse, can make your depression worse. So take the time to sit and reflect on what the situation caused you, how it made you feel, and then you can move on to the next step, which is empathize with the other person. Like I've mentioned before, hurt people, meaning people who've gotten hurt in their lives has a tendency of hurting other people. And yes, empathizing with people doesn't mean what they're doing is right. It's not. But if having an understanding of why they do what they do will make it easier for you to forgive them. Think about it. If your spouse grew up in a household where they were alcoholics, like the parents were alcoholics, he or she might get, mad at you for having too many glasses of wine, because it triggers a hurt that they had as a kid. The same with I've told you guys before, that a previous episode that, when my husband watches football games and he starts yelling and screaming at the TV, it triggers a hurt that happened in my life that, that gets to the point where I can't sit and watch a game with him. And I used to get mad at him, but now I can understand that when he does yell and scream at the TV, that he doesn't mean me any harm. That doesn't mean that when someone hurts you that they didn't mean it. If someone deliberately hurt you, then they meant it. But in some instances, someone hurts you by accident. They didn't mean to hurt you, and you know, in whichever way it is, we need to forgive them regardless of what the hurt was. And I believe me, I truly, truly understand that that's easier said than done. It is not that easy to forgive someone. But I do know from personal experience, once you've forgiven someone, it lifts so much, like it lifts this dark cloud off of you. And you know, it's not the easiest thing to do. And sometimes you have to forgive someone over and over and over again. But it's definitely worth going through the process of forgiving someone. And the next step of forgiving someone is, or, you know, making forgiveness part of your life is forgive deeply. Don't just forgive them because your religion says you have to forgive them, or your therapist says you have to forgive them, or society says that you have to forgive them. Forgive the person with, you know, understanding that not everybody is perfect and we all make mistakes, and that, you know, we can move on from this hurt even if we didn't get the apology. That's a big one to remember. You can forgive someone even if they haven't apologized, even if they don't think that they did anything wrong. Sometimes you have an argument with a family member and they don't think that they did anything wrong, but they hurt you. You can still forgive them even without getting the apology. Again, like I said, forgiveness is for you, not for anybody else. And you don't have to go to that person. It's like, okay, I forgive you. You can, if that's going to fix the relationship, you're more than welcome to do that. But if going to that person and say, hey, I forgive you, is going to cause more harm than good, then it's probably not necessary to go and do that. Because like I said, some people don't think that they did anything wrong. So if you're going to go up to them and say, hey, I forgive you, then they're going to see you as being, you know, arrogant or sarcastic or whatever. And it could just make the situation worse. But in some situations, the person might ask for forgiveness or apologize, and then you can actively say, hey, I forgive you. Okay. So the next thing is to let go of expectations. It comes back to the whole apology thing. If you don't expect the apology, then you don't, you know, it's not going to be that hard to forgive someone if you don't expect the apology. So you just have to make that active, conscious choice to say, you know what, I'm going to forgive this person for whatever it is that they did. Okay. And that goes into the next step, which is decide to forgive them. Once you've made the choice to forgive them, then you got to follow it up with action. So you, you know, like I said, if you're not in a situation where you can talk to the person and tell them, and you know, you guys can talk it out and you can say you forgive them, then, you know, you don't have to go and tell them that you forgive them. Like in a situation where you were assaulted, you can forgive that person without having to talk to them about it. Because in some instances, it might be too dangerous. Think about if you're in a domestic violence situation, you need to keep yourself safe. So it's not wise to go back to that person to talk about forgiveness if you're putting yourself in danger. Okay, so, you know, and in another instance, sometimes the person that you're wanting to forgive has already passed away. And you can't have that conversation. You know, I have that issue right now that I wish I could have a conversation with my dad, so that I can tell him that, hey, you know, I forgive you for all the things that you've done, you know, when I was a kid, because especially now, you know, with my diagnosis, knowing that he probably had the same diagnosis, you know, I would love to be able to say, you know what, I forgive you for the things that you've done. And I am sorry for, you know, the way I treated you, not realizing that you had the diagnosis that you did. You know, so like I said, it goes, you know, forgiveness is just a very powerful thing. And, if you're in a situation where you cannot talk to the person that you're wanting to forgive, then you can write it down in your journal. Or you can talk to somebody that you trust, like a therapist, a teacher at school even, or like I said, a person you trust, your therapist, whoever it is that you can talk to. But like even journaling it down, that would be a good thing too. And then the last step is to forgive yourself. Yes, that's probably one of the hardest things to do, is to forgive yourself. We can be so critical on ourselves and for the things that we've done wrong in our lives, but we need to learn to forgive ourselves as well. Okay? So forgiveness is it's a powerful thing. It sets your mind free. It lowers your stress levels. It lowers your anxiety levels. It lowers your depression levels. Forgiving people, forgiving someone that hurt you can do amazing things for your mental health. And believe me, guys, I know that forgiving someone is difficult. It's hard. And sometimes people hurt you on a daily basis and they hurt you faster than you can forgive them. But I can promise you that if you just keep saying, I'm going to forgive that person, even though today you don't feel like forgiving them. If you say in your mind, you say, okay, I am going to forgive so-and-so for this action that they did. If you keep saying that over and over again, your emotions will eventually catch up. So right now you might harbor a lot of anger and resentment towards that person. But if you keep saying, I forgive you for this, this, and this, or I forgive that person for these things that they did. If you keep saying that every day, eventually your emotions is going to catch on, and that anger is going to start going away. That hurt and disappointment and all of that is going away. And before you know it, someone's going to bring up that situation and you're going to have no feelings towards it because you forgave. And once you've forgiven completely, it will not bother you anymore. And you would think about the situation more from a point of having empathy for that person, having compassion for them, and understanding for what it is that they might be going through. Okay? Like I said, I know it's hard. Forgiving people is hard, but it is so, so worth it. All right, guys. And so yeah, today's episode was a little shorter than normal, but I just felt led to talk about forgiveness this week and how it impacts mental health. And like I mentioned, it impacts mental health on several different levels. And but yeah, on a side note, guys, I actually finally have figured out how to have 2 microphones, so I can finally start planning those interviews that I've mentioned several times. And I'm really excited and looking forward to have those. But there will be more information on those coming. So yeah, if you guys want to share this podcast with somebody who you think might benefit from it, or if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. Like I said, reach out on Facebook, reach out on email, wherever you feel like reaching out, please reach out. And, we can, like I said before, get the conversation started. And if you need help forgiving someone, just reach out and just start talking with someone. You don't have to carry this burden alone. All right, guys. I hope you guys have a wonderful week. For those of you who are on spring break, enjoy your spring break. Have a great, relaxing time. And I will talk to you next week. Love you guys. Bye.